What up? What up? What up? This Ibn Webb, Quran is something here. Official thing going down here. Is it Essex County or nah? This is just a national edition, Jersey edition. Brian Crawford. Those who don't bounce the basketball somewhere in my neck of the woods and beyond know this man and Mr. Wembley. Things they've done over at the North Y with the North Y Rams, just taking young men, turning them, helping them, mold them, shape them into men. Just everything else that Coach B has done. You know, I'm just gonna leave it up to him to talk here. I'm just so gracious that he's giving me a few minutes of his time here. So I'm just gonna be quiet, get Coach B on, and we just gonna rock from there. Hold tight. Coach B, how you doing? Thank you. I done chased you down. I know you about to have like the feds on me, everything here. Get me with all kind of possible stalking charges or something here.
I told you, man. We got it at 6:30. I figured I'd start a little early.
Mm-hmm.
So if I had a, mess up, that we would be able to do it.
I'm shaking my head. No mess up. We good. We good to go. Like I said, I know it was a tough one earlier down at the rack there. I mean, they just didn't come to play.
Yeah, they started off early, made some early mistakes.
Okay.
Once they made those mistakes, Iowa jumped on them. Then there was this young man, number 20. Oh, he played for Iowa today.
Yeah.
He really played, yes.
Yeah. Nah, they'll get back and go. They'll get back going. I mean, it's money time now. January, February is money time for that tournament.
Yeah, it would have been good for them to go 3-0, but 2-1 is better than 1-2 or 0-3. So
yes,
keep it moving, keep it moving forward.
Absolutely. How are you doing? Just in general, family, everybody good, up and running, everybody's good?
Yeah, everybody's good as can be.
Okay, I know it's a crazy time, especially when the winter hit, all kind of stuff sneak by us, these flus and everything else that they're making up. So hopefully everybody's good.
Yes, they are.
Cool. Yeah, I know. Like I said, we've been communicating, for some time here. And like I said, this is just something that just been that has become near and dear to me as far as just being able to connect with, individuals such as yourself and everybody else that I've been so lucky to have an opportunity to catch up with, to talk with, or even meet for the first time actually a few years. So to have you here, and again, like I said, a lot of them that made their way on Broad Street there for whatever reason, one reason or another here. But before we even hit Broad Street, just a little bit about yourself here. Where are you from?
I was born and raised in Elizabeth.
Okay.
And I grew up there, high school. And let's see. Yeah, probably my sophomore year of college, we moved to Newark.
Okay.
So moved to Newark. Mother bought a house up in Valesburg.
Mm-hmm.
And, that was it.
Yeah. Now, Elizabeth, obviously a huge city here. Like, just so as a child, you recall like things that you got into. I mean, I know ultimately, with playing some basketball, what have you did, but what's some other stuff that you did growing up? Were you the only sibling too?
I am.
Okay.
I was the only child to a single mother. My mother passed a number of years back. So, that's, basically that was my childhood growing up.
Mm-hmm.
But I grew up in the third court, what they call Eastwick now.
Okay.
We call it the E-Port. I grew up in the third court. And back then, we played everything.
Mm-hmm.
You might play everything in one day. Played a little stick ball, little baseball, little basketball.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody start talking about how fast they were. We're going to start having a track meet running around the courts,
Mm-hmm.
So did it all, did it all. Had a good childhood.
Yeah. And then as far as you mentioned some of the activities here, some sports related, did you play recreational or organized growing up? Any sports?
Yeah. I played little league baseball.
What position did you play?
Huh?
What position you played?
First base and pitching.
Okay.
First base and pitching. Played Pop Warner football.
Mm-hmm.
And that was wide receiver and safety.
Yeah.
Played basketball, of course,
Mhm.
and that was trying to be a point guard,
Yeah,
you know.
yeah.
So, but again, during my time growing up, we tried to play everything, and we played a
Yes.
little everything, and hopefully, you competed so that you could be on the different teams,
Mhm.
as you
Mhm.
grew up. And I was moderately successful, but you know, after high school, that was it.
Yeah. Now, speaking of high school, did you actually go to Elizabeth High or you went somewhere else?
No, the precursor to Elizabeth High is Thomas Jefferson High
Okay.
before
Okay.
Elizabeth High was built. So
Okay.
I graduated from, in essence, an all boys school, which was
Mm.
Thomas Jefferson High. At
Okay.
that time, the boys' high and the girls' high was split. You had
Okay.
Baton High School for the girls and Thomas Jefferson High for the boys.
Look at getting education as we speak. I never knew that.
Yeah.
And even being over there, I know you mentioned just did you play anything as far as um compete in any level athletically here?
Um, the funniest thing is freshman year, I wrestled.
Okay.
That was over quick.
Did you make it through the season?
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay.
Oh,
Okay.
where I was from, you couldn't quit.
Okay.
Once you started, you couldn't quit.
Mhm.
It might not be going well for you,
Yeah.
but you couldn't quit.
Mhm.
You know. Then sophomore year, I played JV basketball. Junior year, uh, varsity,
Yeah.
but didn't play. And
Mhm.
then senior year, I didn't play at all.
Okay.
I I, I got cut
Mhm.
from the football team, but
Mhm.
my knowledge base was already formed,
Yes.
you know,
Mhm.
and with the help of a gentleman, Mr. Grant,
Mhm.
he got me in Rutgers University.
Mhm.
So
Now, how important, you mentioned obviously Rutgers and you talked about going to college. How important was just getting that college education for you back then?
it was important.
Hmm.
It wasn't as important as I realized it is now.
Okay.
But what I mean by that is I took school as serious as I had to take it,
Hmm.
not trying to be this or that. But
Yes.
I was very fortunate to get in the position to go to Rutgers, and then after attending Rutgers, I was I came back to Newark, and when I started working with the Y,
Mm.
Bill Wemberly put me in the program that allowed me to go to MIT.
Wow. Okay.
And I spent the year there in the community development, economic
Mm.
community development program.
Hmm.
And everything, meshed in well after
Hmm.
that. But it was important for the family, to have someone going to college, particularly my mother, because she was all about education herself.
Yeah.
So, you know.
And it sounds like from Mr. Grant to Mr. Wembley, probably some others that you haven't mentioned maybe yet. Hey, sound like you was getting those formal and informal educations and guidance along the way here.
Oh yeah, definitely, definitely.
Now you mentioned the why. How did you end up there as far as with Mr. Wembley?
Good friend of mine, David Stevenson. Dave went to Shabazz, and he was a couple years younger than me, and he came to Rutgers.
Mm.
And when he graduated, he got his first job at the YMCA. And I guess when they had one of the AAU practices or tryouts, he called me and said, "Yo, you need to see this. You know,
Mm.
this gentleman that I work for, Mr. Bill Wembley, has all of the best players in the area, in the state, down in the gym."
Mm-hmm.
So of course I made my way
Mm-hmm.
to the
Mm-hmm.
Y to see the tryout. You know, the workouts at the time, they were beyond tryouts, and just to volunteer my services. So that's how I got started.
When you walked into the gym that day, were you just taken back by all the talent that was in there?
I wasn't really taken aback by it, but I
Mm-hmm.
was like, okay, you know,
Mm-hmm.
you walk in there, you got Mark Bryant, David Rivers, Kenny
Mm-hmm.
Wilson,
Yeah.
Derek McGee, Ala Abdenabi, Franz Volsi. They're at various stages because they're not all the same age,
Mm-hmm.
but they're all in the same gym. You know, you you like, okay, this is going to be serious. This is going to
Yes.
be good. You
Mm-hmm.
know, so
Now you
I took
started
it.
volunteering. It sounds like it. So the X's and O's. What just got you into? I know you're saying volunteering, but ultimately just being a coach. Prior to even going there, were you coaching elsewhere?
At school at Rutgers.
Okay.
You know, we had the different intramural teams, we had the different leagues, and then I was fortunate enough to meet Art Perry, Coach Boylan, and Coach Young,
Mm-hmm.
and that was during when they had the Rutgers walk-on tryout process.
Mm-hmm.
But once again, I knew that I didn't want to do what a walk-on did,
Okay.
and I didn't want to do what a manager did.
Mm-hmm.
So I was fortunate enough to, talk my way into conversating with them, and then later on being able to piggyback with what we were doing at the Y to
Okay.
reconnect with them.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like, oh, this is the guy that was always pestering us, that, was always around, but he didn't want to be a manager. He didn't, he didn't want to be, he wasn't a walk on,
Mm-hmm.
but I was fortunate.
Yeah. What was it about basketball that just drew you in?
Um, One just loved doing it.
Okay.
Just loved watching, the different players that were coming up, during the time, Walt Frazier, Earl Monroe, Dick Van Arsdale, all these different players. And it was just like basketball was like art and poetry.
Mm-hmm.
There was both of those elements to it that I liked.
Mm-hmm.
And it was also something that you could be creative with. And the you asked me before, you have to excuse my mind sometimes, it'll drift.
Oh no,
But
I'm with you too. Mine does too. So even though I'm a little younger.
the, the first real opportunity I got to coach was with a local squad where I grew up that was called Press Wiz. It was called the Press Wizards. And in School One in Elizabeth, they had the Summer League. They had one down in the neighborhood, which was School One. Then they had one up at the high school, which was run by the Board of Education. Both of them were really run by the Board of Education, but one was more community based where you could have all-star teams.
Mm-hmm.
So that's where, even with the Y, I started bringing guys from the Y, to that league. And some of the local guys from Elizabeth, where I was from, played in that league. So that's where I really got refined in terms of the X and O's. So by the time I got to the Y in total, I already knew what I was doing. I had sat in the first chair,
Okay.
going to the Y. I was now going to sit in the second or third chair.
Mm-hmm. And you were okay with that at that time, as far as sitting in that second and third chair?
I told you that I walked in the gym and Mark Bryant, David Rivers, Kenny Wilson, Brian Casbar, you know what I'm saying?
Yes.
Yeah, I was cool with that,
Mm-hmm.
because those other chairs were occupied by Mr. Wembley, a gentleman, Mr. Ed Lawson, who was
Yes.
from Jersey City,
Mm-hmm.
and Sandy Payone,
Yes.
you know. So we were all together. So, you know, shit, hell, that's the fourth chair. I didn't mind having that at all,
Mm-hmm.
you know.
Mm-hmm.
And the first tournament that we went to was one called the Sharon Hoyle Classic, and we won, you know.
All this talent, and you mentioned even the first tournament, winning that first tournament here, like, how was y'all able to just kind of, even back then, again, I know it's not as massive as it is now, but just put all this talent together and become one?
I credit that to Mr. Wembley at the time, Mr.
Okay.
Wembley and Mr. Lawson. But like I said, I'm in the third, you know, fourth chair. But Mr. Wembley was somebody that was from Boston,
Mm-hmm.
and he had you know, a real forward thinking and a tough attitude.
Mm-hmm.
And that's, you know, you've played sports that teams reflect their coach's
Yes.
personality a lot.
Mm-hmm.
So here you had guys with a lot of talent with a man that was driving them. And, you know, they just began to reflect, you know, his toughness.
Mm-hmm.
And he knew, you know, just enough basketball to have their respect. And, you know, it was beautiful basketball at times, you know.
Now, back then, who else was, I would just say, at least Jersey at the moment here, as far as other AAU programs back when you initially started?
Well, you got it, there weren't a lot.
Right.
Back then, excuse me, you had Woody Malik. He was representing the Jersey Shore.
Okay.
You had gentleman Wayne Cody, who was a longtime coach up at Wayne Hills. He had a team up in that northern area.
Mm-hmm.
And then you really had the Y.
Okay.
And those were the three at the highest level.
Mm-hmm.
Now at lower levels, you had a few more teams, but nobody else really came into that picture until probably we split when Sandy left and started the Roadrunners.
Mm-hmm.
Then now there's four. And once that happened, you know, guys down the shore start splitting, and
Okay.
and it, you know, it just magnified out
Mm-hmm.
to a level, you know.
Okay.
So there weren't really a lot of teams.
Now, you mentioned Mr. Wembley with the forward thinking, and was that even having the whole different ages at that time too? I mean, did y'all only have the 16, 17s, or did you wind up starting to get in the younger kids as well, to like the 12 and 13
No,
and others?
they always had the younger age groups.
Okay.
Again, there was a gentleman, Mike McNair. He was from East Orange. He was a fireman.
Mm-hmm.
Mike was part of the younger group. Andre, I apologize to the family for not being able to remember his last name at the time, but Andre was one of the youth directors. Him, Mike, and a gentleman, Bruce Johnson,
Mm-hmm.
they had the younger groups. And then one year we actually had Mr. Knight, Coach Knight,
Right.
when he brought Brevin into the program.
Right, and that's who I played with, Mr. Knight.
Okay, yeah, and Mr. Knight came on for a year, so we always had the younger kids, but you know, at that time the program was probably top heavy because of the resources and where the resources went.
Mm-hmm. Now, even with the whole basketball and everything else here, how, and again, I'm gonna kind of go back and forth a little bit, but how did you just balance your other life with AAU as the thing started to probably pick up and evolve, you know, with the program?
Oh, I didn't. basketball became my life.
Okay.
Basketball became a avenue for me not only to teach
Hmm.
and coach, but as a way of living,
Okay.
a way of not just being involved in the game of basketball, but being involved in the industry of basketball.
Mm.
So,
Okay.
you know,
And it's interesting you mentioned became life here, and yourself and the other coaches here with these individuals, no matter what they achieved and everything else here, you're still dealing with young men, teenagers, or what have you here. So sometimes probably a high percentage of them, I'm gonna just take a guess. It was just a challenge getting to the Y to practice, to go on those trips here. Everything else was pretty much more work than basketball was the easy part for them. So again, how did you just play a part as far as just developing these men?
I just tried what the first thing is that I believe in youth empowerment.
Mm-hmm.
So in dealing with them, I didn't always dictate to them. I would ask their opinion so that I could gain that trust.
Okay.
And what I was fortunate is that a lot of players at an early age and stage in my career allowed me to be honest and real with them. So at that time, you know how it was. We guys looked up to guys. So if they saw this guy of stature allowing me to really get into him
Mm-hmm.
and coach him hard, they said, okay, I'm going to allow that too. And some of these were, some of the toughest guys in their neighborhood that,
Yeah.
they could have just said, like you said, bump this. I'm not taking this. I'm not playing this. You don't talk to me that way. But they allowed me to. And, I think for the most part, that allowed us to go beyond basketball,
Yeah. Yeah.
and that was some of the biggest, uh, like I said, challenges, but also some of the biggest rewards were,
Mm-hmm.
in dealing with guys as they grew from boys, to men
Yeah.
and all.
And you mentioned those rewards. I mean, I'm sure it touched yourself as a coach here, just seeing these guys as being the opportunity just to get away from their block. I don't care if it was just going over to the city. I mean, obviously, you guys went nationally, internationally, but I can only imagine how much that just meant to you.
Sometimes we were taking young men on their first trip out of state.
Yeah.
Sometimes we were putting some young men on their first plane ride.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, all of those things are special.
Mm-hmm.
And just to see their horizons open up, you know, knowing that the world was bigger than Broad Street,
Yes.
whatever Broad Street, where you live, to know that the world was bigger than that, and to show them how there were endless possibilities for them,
Mm-hmm.
beyond whatever our present circumstance was.
Mm-hmm.
And, a great large amount of them have gone on to be, total, you know, very successful in their, grown up endeavors.
Now the game itself, as North Rams, obviously we continue to elevate or were elevated, playing these teams here. I mean, just how competitive did it get? Obviously you got Gauchos, Riverside, you got the Shore, you got everybody. How competitive did things get as far as getting the talent here?
It, it's funny. It's like it wasn't really competitive,
Mm,
during a certain time, a certain time period, and everybody has their shelf life. You know, everybody wanted to be around.
mm-hmm.
You know, you wanted to be a North Rand,
Yeah.
and if you weren't, that was cool, but you had to want to be. We didn't need you.
Mm.
You know, if you wanted to be, you could be. One of the things that, when I would speak sometime to a young man, I might ask him, well, my whole thing, well, what you gonna do
Mm-hmm.
in the spring? And if that person would say that he had other opportunities, I'd tell him, take one of them,
Mm-hmm.
because he didn't want to be a Ram.
Yeah.
He wanted to see what was going to be the best opportunity for him. And the first thing I wanted was young men that wanted to be Rams.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, most definitely. And you mentioned that whole spring, summertime. What were you doing from in the fall and winter? I mean, again, I know maybe attending high school games and looking for other. Was there anything else outside of that you were doing? This is when AAU was spring and summer versus practically year round.
Yeah, I had jobs. I worked with the United Community Corporation.
Okay.
I was the youth coordinator there. I worked with a North Employment Referral Network.
Mm-hmm.
Again, I did, youth employment, uh, youth economic development projects, things of that nature. It was a small community-based
Mm-hmm.
organization. So I did, things like that. But then around 94, I just totally committed to basketball.
Okay.
So in the fall, I do training up to a
Mm.
certain point of when the season would start,
Okay.
and then let the players go, and I would go watch those players and still be involved in their development, through just conversation, because at that time we really didn't interfere too much with the high school coach. We more or less at times we worked alongside them.
Okay. So that relationship building with the high school coaches, was it always pretty much intact as far as the level of respect on both ends?
Uh, for me,
Okay.
for me, you know, I I I've observed, big time on both sides. You
Mm-hmm.
know, I've seen high school coaches big time, club coaches, and club coaches big time, high school coaches, but I didn't really have that problem.
Mm-hmm. How about with the colleges? Because again, I know you're out there in the sun, and they're all out there. The rapport and relationships is pretty much okay, even with the college coaches. This is actually because they could talk to the players and everything during the summer back then, or no?
No, it was the game has changed, dramatically, because with me, you're going back into the early 80s as a
Mm-hmm.
beginning, and it was almost unlimited recruitment. And I mean, if they wanted you, if they they used to get an apartment in the city where the player, their number one recruit, was, so that when you woke up in the morning, the first thing you saw was coach.
Mm-hmm.
By the time you got to school, coach might be opening the door for you to go to school.
Mm-hmm.
When you came out, coach was right there. And so that dynamic, began to change when they began to implement Prop 48
Yeah.
and, subsequently Prop 42.
Mm-hmm. And even with Prop 48, how'd that impact? I would just say us blacks or even people of color. What was your stance on that? I mean,
You there was two things. You know what it was intended to do,
mm-hmm.
but you know we if you love something, you always commit to what you love.
Okay.
So I knew that ultimately it wasn't going to be a problem. What it was going to do is it was going to just enhance the status of the student athlete. They were really going to have some smart young men, because if you didn't get that seat in
Right.
at the time, that 800, and I think they changed it down to maybe a 2.5 and a 1020, and you have the scales, that you weren't going to play. And
Yeah.
if you truly loved the game, you were going to do whatever you had to do to be able to play. And academics is a part of that.
No, most definitely. And I know I think my time was a 700. That was the golden number. That was the golden number. But even back then, even with the Prop 48 and everything, there was other routes. They're more favorable now these days. But even with the whole postgraduate, the PGs and the junior colleges here, what was your thoughts on some of that stuff? It has progressed since throughout the years, though. But I know it was far between back when we talking about mid 80s, early 90s.
Well, the prep schools have been around, like you said, from 1800s, 1900s, early 1900s. So, excuse me again. We were probably, again, Bill Wimberly at this time, at this time period. Bill was from Boston. Boston being in New England, that is the birthplace and the hub of the prep schools. And so he knew about Maine Central Institute.
Yeah.
He knew about, Vermont Academy. He knew about these different schools. So he not only attempted to get young men into, colleges, he helped them from being in Newark. He was, helped them with the ABC program, a Better Chance program, those type of things to set up so that urban kids from this area could go to those New England prep schools. And so, we had a number of guys to go, like I said, to MCI, and then even junior college to go to Champaign Junior College. Think of God bless the dead J.R. Roberts.
Yes.
J.R. went up there. A number of guys went there, and so that was, again, prep. Those days, you're on a campus, this, that, and the other. The reiteration of prep schools now have gone from small, like I'm involved with the Robinson School. Okay. That was started by my cousin Vince Robinson, and we're a prep academy that's housed in the Irvington Recreation Building, and also we have classrooms, this, that, and the other. Some preps don't. Some just have basketball practice, playing, housing, things of that nature. But now, some of the prep schools that were doing the exact same things that we're doing out west have full-blown facilities, full-blown campuses.
Yes.
They put a lot of money into them, and they're prep academies, but they're extravagant. They're not, mom and pop type of situations. There's really, a lot of money that's been put into them. And the result of that is what you see with the NIBC, with the League with Mount Verdi, Sunrise Christian.
You got the IMGs of the world. And
yes. Exactly.
And it's interesting, even with the prep schools in regards to, but also interesting. I heard something, and maybe I'm just a little bit out the loop a little bit, but in regards to even sometimes with schooling here, they've pulled away some extracurricular activities like the music classes and this and that, and have created more recreational courses as far as for some kids to in school here. Say their focus is on basketball here, so during those times they have changed classes to where they're getting that extra workout, they're getting that extra work in. Me on the outside looking in, I'm completely okay with that, because music's not for everybody. I get you want somebody to be well rounded. I understand all that piece, but if somebody already knows or their family knows like where they want to be at with this individual, I have like no problem with that. I don't know if you see like an issue with pulling away some of these like extracurricular courses, the art classes and music
Well,
classes.
the the reasoning, the the art classes and the music classes aren't just being pulled back by, to stop basketball. The art classes and music classes are being pulled back to limit options for the kids. So we already know that basketball has a finite number of individuals that can play it.
Hmm.
You start out with 1 million, 4 million kids. We break that down to 450,000 high schoolers. We break that down to 30,000 college players throughout. We break that down to 2,000 professional players worldwide.
Hmm.
Then, of course, you break that down to 450 in the
In
NBA
the league, yes.
and another 60 with two-way contracts. So that's 510 people that ultimately get to play in the United States for a salary,
Hmm.
a significant salary. So,
Hmm.
but
Yeah, and again, I know, like I said, things are being changed, and to your point here, some things we do know why here. All because I've also learned that learning is different these days as far as in the classroom, as far as what work back when doesn't work now. These younger kids are learning differently. You kind of they've got more resources and things at their disposal where they're learning so fast here. So and again, and I know sometimes with curriculums that you do got to shift them and get with the times a little bit here.
yeah,
I've seen
no,
that.
I have no problem with uh, specialization,
Mhm.
because like you said, but I think what the pandemic showed is that school can be done outside of the classroom, but doing school outside of the classroom isn't for everybody.
Right, right.
There's a level of self-motivation that you need to have in order
Mhm.
to do that schooling and doing it vigorously, you know, outside the classroom. Now, you have said basketball is young in terms of the new ways of getting there.
Mhm.
You know, there was always a direct path of going to high school. If you were good enough, you could go straight from high school to pro. They stopped that. Now you have to have at least be 1 year. If you're U.S., you have to be 1 year graduated from high school to go, or 19 years old and graduated. And so what you have happen is then you have all these young European kids that were coming over here that were narrative NBA ready.
Mhm.
And now you have somebody like Overtime come in and say, well, we're going to do what they do in Europe. We're going to pay the 17 to 18-year-old player to play. You had the NBA say, hold up, we want the best pick of the young player that's not going to go to college or wants to turn pro right away. So that's where the G League Ignite starts. But if you look at that, that's even in a different iteration of its original one. Overtime is now in its third iteration of what it was. It started out with paying high school players to play. Then as the NIL changed, it's now giving them the option of paying, being a pro or going to overtime and maintaining your eligibility and working your income through NIL deals.
Mhm.
And ultimately, I think they're going to go to, well, we might as well just go NIL deals. So
Right.
they're there. G League went from taking high schoolers who graduated and didn't want to go to college but wanted to be professionals if they were deemed potentially eligible, to taking high school players similar to overtime, School Henderson, second year in the G League, so real high school guy, to realizing that they needed vets and mixing the veterans in, to now taking individuals that aren't draft eligible and having them on the G League Ignite at, a prorated salary.
Mhm.
So there's so many different ways now to
Yes.
get to the league, but it ultimately comes down to who does the league want.
Bottom line. Yeah, bottom line. Speaking of NIL, how you think, has it hurt or helped even high school athletes?
All it is really with high school is it's another distraction.
Okay.
It's just like social media. It becomes a distraction for them from the purity. But I'm all for it. Don't get me wrong. I'm all for it.
Mhm.
But I think the question, I'm saying, the question that you asked is twofold.
Yes.
What does it do? I think it adds to distraction, but you know what? I'm all for it.
Mhm.
Get whatever you can get out of the game, because the game is taking something out of you.
Yes.
So,
And I know it's still in its infancy, so to speak, here, as far as ironing things out and what's going to work, not work. And I know everybody's situation is a little different with it as well, too. So I'm curious to see how it plays out. And to your point here, as far as helping those, because again, you in this game, and
I want to see
yes,
one of those guys that got that $1 million deal.
yes,
Man, I want to see
yes,
one of them.
nah, absolutely here. Well, question I'm sure you've been asked this throughout the years here, and I'm asked because I never knew. So or if you can't even share, Coach Sandy leaves the North Rams. Is it some animosity, some bitterness, or was it just wish you well back then?
Wanted to spread his wings.
Okay. Okay.
Wanted to spread his wings.
And didn't even
Sandy,
go ahead.
Sandy, Sandy brought what he brought to the table, and it may be a player 2 or 3 and all. And Sandy was really passionate about those players. One of the things that when I came that I had to do was I had to just talk to him about the opportunity for everybody, and not just the ones that he was passionate about. Because, anybody, not just him, but a lot of times a coach would come in and want to see a certain player. You in your mind may know that coach isn't going to get that player that he wants to see. But you don't tell that coach that. You let that coach in our situation, excuse me, you let that coach come in the gym and see this whole array of talent, because they could come in looking for me and leave out with you. But if you tell the coach, "Ah, man, you ain't got no chance at getting that player. He's above your, your level." You know, one, that coach might be offended, and so now he's not going to come and look at anybody in the gym because you told him he couldn't get the guy that he want. You know, my thoughts was always let that coach get his no.
Mm-hmm.
You know, let that man have his opportunity to get his no. And so, I'm saying those are just philosophic, differences
Yes.
of how to approach. Because, like you said, my goal and objective is to get these guys out of whatever environment they're in into this college situation where they could, play some basketball and possibly have opportunity to take care of their families.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Now, with that said, how were those games? How intense were those North Grand road running games?
Intense.
Yes.
Very intense.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of passion on both sides,
Mm-hmm.
a lot of passion on both sides, but they were intense. A lot of people disagree with Sandy on a lot of things, but he could coach a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
He could coach,
Mm-hmm.
and he would have talent. At times, when we split, he had his talent because basketball is about relationships. So
Yes.
he had talent, and sometimes he beat us. Sometimes we beat them.
Mm-hmm.
But every game was a battle.
Yeah. No, I can only
Yeah,
imagine. I can only
yeah.
imagine.
It
Now
was.
no. I just saying I just can only imagine just how crazy those games were. I don't care which age group it was. I can only imagine.
Oh yeah. You imagine one year I've got a senior team of Brev and Elijah Allen in the backcourt,
Mm-hmm.
and Andy has young Shaheen.
Mm-hmm.
And he always had other players, but that's just sometimes the talent. Sandy would have Jerry and Jerry Walker, Terry DeHare.
Mm-hmm.
I would have Chris Jordan, Marquise Bragg. Those
Mm-hmm.
guys. It was,
Yeah.
it was good basketball, really.
Oh no, most definitely. Yeah. You talk about those guys and AAU in general here. I know we talk about AAU now. Like I think my late grandmother probably had a team before she passed. Like everybody had AAU teams now. I mean, like you said, I know it's different levels. The one thing that gets me now, it seems maybe I'm wrong, but it seems like everybody makes like a national tournament where it used to have to be like the first and second place teams of the state. But it seems like every time I turn around, somebody tell me they're going to the nationals, and I'm like,
Well,
how's this working?
okay, going back to part of the conversation when you asked me how many different teams
Mm-hmm.
in that time during the 80s, you had to play your state tournament.
Right.
And one of the things that people don't know now, I ran AAU from 1993 to about 2003
Okay.
for boys basketball. And what you had was the number of people that could go to the nationals were based on the amount of participants that you had in your state tournament. So if you only had 8 teams, only one team could go.
Mm-hmm.
So back then, that would create a whole lot of problems. People trying to get down to 8-1. So for a time period before I was in charge, of the games were like separate little local tournaments.
Mhm.
And you had to get through that. Then you would go to a regional before you could go to the nationals. As basketball began to expand and club basketball took a hold, and it was always called AAU basketball, but it wasn't really. This is the beginning of Adidas and Nike putting money in the game and developing teams and developing tournaments and things of that nature. So what happened is AAU had to figure out how do we maintain a focus, because now a lot of the big teams that were AAU, of course, were the same teams that were getting the sponsorship from Nike and Adidas and that. So now, where you think they're going? If Adidas got a tournament and they're paying, flying you out, paying for your hotels, and
Mhm.
they're dressing you, versus going to the AAU Nationals. And some teams were able to balance it, but a lot of teams began to move on.
Mm.
So now that became the Division 2.
Okay.
If you remember, there's just one. Now
Yeah.
all of a sudden, AAU went to Division 2. Now what happens is you got a lot of teams that are Division 1 level thinking that it's going to be an easy route to go Division 2 versus stay at the level that they are and compete, people wanting to win. Now, so, they usurped the real reason for having Division 2. So now they develop Division 3. And all at the same time, you have the proliferation of hoop groups out on the West Coast, pump and
Okay.
run, in the different Midwest, Phenom, USA, and so everybody became a event promoter. And so
Okay.
said, it, what to go to AAU Nationals really doesn't matter to
Yeah.
teams anymore.
No, and that's the thought that I had when I started hearing like all these other teams. I'm like, when it mattered was that one and two teams made it. And it was a big to do back then as far as the win to get to that finals. If nothing else, if you knew two teams were going, but if it was only that one to win it all.
Oh yeah, you
Yeah.
know, some great battles.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. Now even with AAU, where it's at, I know you oversaw it for a period of time. Though, are you happy in the place that it's in right now?
I'm comfortable,
Okay.
you know, where it said it's the it's a little different.
Hmm.
It's a little more intense.
Hmm.
There was always passion, but there was never the perceived animosity, and that you could see in, if you look at some of these tape, incidents that happen on social media and this, that, in games,
Hmm.
there wasn't really, you know, any of that. So, I prefer to see that whole situation calm down, but you know,
Hmm.
I'm good with it.
About the caregivers slash parents and their attitudes these days. I mean, again, it was passion throughout the years, but again, obviously things are more visible because we have cameras and a phone right then and there. But in the same breath here, just the mannerisms allowing these girls and guys to compete without interfering.
It's like you're always going to promote your child.
Right.
Oh, again, I was fortunate. I was fortunate in that a lot of what we did in the Rams was written down. So if your child made the program, you would get a letter congratulating you about your child making the program. You know, you would get, in that letter would be the responsibilities, that you had to the program, in terms of finances, because for a long time we weren't an all expense paid team. And it explained to you that the fees that you paid were for your child to practice and to develop, that none of the fees that you paid guaranteed your child playing time. And also that when you cheered for your child, cheer for the team, but don't degrade another player on the team, because your child could be making the same mistake that that player is making. And if you don't adhere, your child may be asked to leave. And usually most parents don't want to hurt their child. So, they may look at it crazy, but I was fortunate in that I had good parents overall. And they, were passionate for Rams
Yes.
and stuff, but they never, you know, did any backbiting out in the open, and it made the team stronger. And, if you check my guys to this day, whichever group they grew up with, I guarantee you 2 or 3 of them are friends for life right now.
That's right. Now, even the shortage of refs and officials here, I know they take a beating as well. I think it's unfortunate sometimes some of these tournaments here, you might only have one ref, but in the same breath, also to the refs, again, some of them need to, obviously, mechanics and everything need to be intact. And it's not to get lax at a tournament where you don't run up and down the court. You blowing your whistle on down on the far end here. So it's a give or take.
But you know what? Running AAU taught me one thing, and that the most important person in the game is the official.
Yeah, I know refs, yeah, I know game.
There it is.
Yeah.
And I don't care how good they are, how bad they are. Respect what they're doing. And, people will look at this and go, oh, look at me. Talk about that, because I was adamant. I was about perfection. So I was on refs hard early in my career, and I go tit for tat with them because I was doing my work. I was practicing every day.
Yes.
And I wanted them to practice every day. And I didn't care if I was losing by 30. I wanted their best, even when I was down by 30, because I was in a teaching mode, and sometimes, God, it's over, man. We wanted to get out of here. And that, but once I took over AAU, I found out that the most important player in the game is the referee. Because if you don't have an official, it's not official.
That's right.
You're just out there playing pickup. So I think that every time somebody says that a ref is doing a bad job, that, I would advise them pick up that whistle and try that. Try to be that man in that arena that nobody's really trying to be your friend. They're just there to criticize whatever moves you make, And like I said, there's guys that are there just for the check, especially when you're in club and you're in a tournament that has 500 games going on at one time. You're going to get, a varied level. But still, no matter how bad, it's not a game if that guy is not there with the stripes. So.
That's right. And then myself being a former official and actually I do some work over a officiating association that I do. So everything you're saying is so true. It's so true here. And again, it's a give and take. And I think And I think generally the majority of officials they know the competitiveness of the game, no matter what the score is. And to your point here, you know, did everything you did to try to get your team in a position to win. That ref needs to be in the best position to officiate the best game he or she can. So no, most definitely here.
I think overall they all try.
Yes,
I think they all try.
yes, no, definitely here. Now with Elite Training Academy, what made you start that?
Oh, like I said, in '94, once I decided that I was going to leave the corporate world
Mm-hmm.
and in nonprofit, corporate nonprofit world, that there was a way I needed to, generate income.
Okay.
And I had, because at that time too, there were the gaps. So you had the gap between the season and when AAU started. Now
Mm-hmm.
everything overlaps really. Nothing ever stops. But so that was, the evidence to start that, to see if I could do the training, the individual skill development and all, besides the team training, I had you had ideas of how you could build a player,
Okay.
what a player need to progress in the game, how he needs to move in the game, the type of power that they need to have, the type of agility. So that just from me going around, studying different people, different styles,
Mm-hmm.
I said, well, let me see if I could put it together and get it under the roof and get it going.
Mm-hmm. And how did it work for you? As far as, again, obviously, I know you're still in the game here. Did you wind up just expanding what you initially started doing with that, or you just kind of kept everything the way it was from day one?
No, everything is simply a one man operation.
Okay.
It's me, my thoughts,
Okay.
my advice to players,
Mm-hmm.
my techniques, that I have, developed myself and have stolen from some of the greatest,
Mm-hmm.
in basketball. We're, a game of thieves when it comes to finding good technique or good skills.
Mm-hmm.
So what I've been able to do is I work out in New Jersey, of course, and then I travel a lot to destination training, with different individuals, different clients,
Okay.
and I do uh, time in Las Vegas, time in Atlanta,
Mm-hmm.
and then I have some other business interests that are out in LA.
Mm-hmm.
So
Now,
that keeps me busy.
with the actual coaching on the floor here, what was your coaching style like? As far as during the game, did you have a certain style that you kind of stuck with, or made some changes throughout the years? Or
No, absolutely made changes throughout the years. The game changed,
yes,
you know. Um, I, I, as they say, this is that point of show. I've seen your show, Ibn,
that's funny.
and, and I've seen a number of my guys on your show saying certain things about me, Ibn. you know. But I was passionate,
Mhm,
know it all, because I thought I knew it all.
mhm,
You know, um, very realistic based, with the players and stuff. And over time, um, the best thing, like I said in the beginning, was how players allowed you to coach them hard,
yes.
and they took it. They took it, and if they believed in what you were saying, and I always had a technical base to what I be telling you on the court,
Mhm,
even back then. So the players knew that, oh, this is going to work. He's improving my angle. He's,
mhm,
he's cutting down my time. Things like third man through.
mhm,
Things like that. Guys are taking big loops around. Nah, baby, open up and let him get third man through. and we catch them here, and over time they want to see what else you're gonna do, and it just became, again, like I said, very passionate. Uh, you know, guys would tell you I would say anything to them,
Mhm.
on the court and during the game, and most of it was true,
Mhm.
you know. But there was always a reason behind it.
Yes.
It was never just to berate somebody. It was never just to try to embarrass somebody. It may came out strong, but it was to teach you in that moment that there'll be times in your life where you absolutely got to do what you have to do, and this is how it has to get done, and there's not going to be a deviation from it, no
Mhm.
matter what you want. Let's learn this now through this lesson of basketball, and so many of them did. You know, so many of them did, and
Go through
then
the mud. Yeah, they gotta go through the mud.
yeah,
Yeah.
and then over time, I I I began to see and understand that we don't treat everybody the same, but you try to treat everybody fairly. So now, where in the beginning I may have been just hard, 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 but understanding, now I was hard on this one, understanding on that one, but holding both of them to the same level of excellence,
Mhm.
but getting to them in a different way. Can't get to everybody the same way.
Mhm.
And probably my daughter, when she started playing, I learned it expressly from them, because what I found with young ladies and women, that if they shut out, if they shut you down, it's not like a male player, or it wasn't. Then pro women is pro.
Mhm.
They do their thing. But with young ladies, if they shut you out, that's it for the game. You
Mhm.
they're not really trying to hear what you're trying to say. And over time, I saw that male players were like that also. That we've got a generation of players that'll shut you out no matter what you're saying. So it doesn't matter how much you think you're going to try to teach them. If they're not listening to you, they're not learning.
Nah, Coach V, I'm smiling inside because as you share that about your daughter here, I got a little 8-year-old, and again, though she's 8, I had this whole grandiose ideas about certain things here. Some things she just shut down, and I've learned to kind of got to do things. I got to treat her differently.
Yeah,
Still effective and still consistent with her, but got to do it
yeah,
a little different.
yeah, absolute, absolute. Girls are special, man.
Oh man, who you telling here? Who you telling? And speaking of players, here's the question: Has the player changed or the game changed, or both, or not at all?
Both. The games change. You know, again, I go back to when we used to develop. Coaches would tell you to develop your book.
Mm,
And your book was your book of plays for every situation,
mm,
so that when you got your opportunity, you know, you had your book. When you would go on your interview, you had your setup. This is before you had the deck to show everybody this,
mm-hmm,
or PowerPoint presentation. So you develop these plays. Uh, I would say around probably around 2007, probably when Steve D'Antoni became assistant uh, USA coach with Krzyzewski,
mm-hmm.
that all of a sudden
You talking about Mike Antoni or
Mike D'Antoni,
Mike?
Mike
Okay.
D'Antoni, who was
Mhm.
with Phoenix
Yes.
at the time, and Coach K was now the USA basketball coach. And D'Antoni, if you remember, had that speed European system
Hmm.
going with Nash and Amari Stoudemire and those guys. And he changed the game with K. When he introduced K to that style,
Hmm.
K went away from his traditional, big power four to more 5 out, or 4 out, one in. And so now the motions start coming in to the game. So all that book that you had been developing all those years
Hmm.
is no longer about the book. Now it's about motions. Now
Yes.
you start getting you start getting elbow, pinched elbows, you know, uh, you start getting floppy, you start getting, different movements and different back action, Spain actions, things of those nature. And now, if you listen to anybody, they tell you now there's no plays. Now you just make reads. So yeah, the game has changed in that sense. The players have changed because they really adapted to the changes in the game, where it went from traditional bigs to now you have to be a stretch big.
Hmm.
You know, you have to be able. The one thing you have to be able to do right now in basketball is shoot the ball.
Yeah.
You have to be able to shoot the ball. Do those other things, that's great, but you got to be able to shoot the ball.
Yeah.
So now we're in that change in the game now. How does that do? Big men are big men are almost like running backs in football. They don't have the value that they used to have.
The lifespan, right? Yeah. Yeah.
Everybody would be trying to draft a running back in the first round to get that best running back. The
Hmm.
game has changed over time with throwing the ball and all that to, well, we don't need that bigger man. And now if you look in the NBA and basketball around the world, the 7-footer is diminishing, so
Hmm.
games definitely change.
Well, you brought up a 7 foot. I gotta ask, since you mentioned, how about the big boy from France? What you think he gonna be? Turn out to be?
He looks special.
Hmm.
He looks special. Um, you know, you never know.
Hmm.
What I wish for him. I just wish great health for him.
Yes.
You know, and all, and the progress will be what it'll be. But he looks special. You
Mm.
know.
Yeah. Now, obviously, moving over to Newark, later on in college, what have you, just seeing Newark basketball again. You don't saw the city league. You don't seen everything here, like and I know you're fortunate enough to, obviously you guys they still got the Newark Holiday Tournament, which kind of keeps everybody together at least for a few days, to play against. So like, just how special is Newark basketball to you?
Well, Newark basketball is some of the best basketball in the state overall. Each year you'll have ups, and you'll have downs in terms of teams that um bigger than North. I really love Essex County basketball
Hmm.
because that takes in everybody that competes, with and against each other. And I think that we're in an era of some great young coaches. You
Hmm.
know, they, they may, I'm not young B, but they're young to me, and you have, a great mix of, veteran coaches like OG, Sean
Yes.
McCray at Central and all. But then you have, young coaches, like my son, Charles, who's
Yes.
now the head coach at Weekway,
Hmm.
Nas Marino, who's the head coach at Shabazz, So you have these guys coming in, and then you've got other former players of mine that are head coaches in Essex County with
Hmm.
Sam Robinson at Columbia and Gabe Baltimore at
Yes.
EO. And I'm sure I'm forgetting somebody,
Hmm.
and, great friends at Payne West Side, and Akbar is a former player of
Yes.
mine at West Side.
Mhm.
So art, I just thought about it. Prophet is at Arts now. So,
Mhm.
Prophet. So for me to go to the games, there's always a certain level of nervousness because it's my guys competing
Right. The
against each other.
Marquises, Elijahs, all of
Yes,
them. Yeah.
Marquise is now at North Tech. Absolutely. You know, and so it's refreshing to see, and I know that all of those individuals are teaching,
Yes.
you know, and I think that's important for that next generation of players, to not just be allowed to express whatever ability he has, but to be taught how to channel that ability, you know, in a winning way.
Mhm.
So, you know, I love I love Essex County North basketball.
And no, most definitely, most definitely. With this game of basketball, just sports in general, what has it given you that sticks with you to this day?
What do you mean?
Just any life skill or any characteristic that just continues to stay with you just throughout your life, as far as whether it was coaching, whether it was playing, whether it was observing, that sports has done for you?
Man, sports, basketball in particular, has allowed me to, you know, see things and be places that, I may have never thought that I would, obtain to have great friends, people that have supported me over the years, like my partner Bob Katz, to learn different lifestyles,
Yeah.
and also basketball has done, so much for me. And it's I tell the guys that played, like, you know, oh, we're a web. It's like a spider that's building a web. The web is not complete, but the spider is completing the web. So
Mm-hmm.
all these guys that have gone on, like I said, the guys I named are the coaches, but they're also the guys that have gone on into their professions, and it's that we're still in communication, and I still have, some business interests with some of them, some, social interests with others, and all. So it's, it's been wonderful, wonderful, journey for me.
No, definitely, definitely his. Since you seen one or two of these here on the back end here, just some random questions here. I mean, but what are you asking me? But just some random questions. You
Yeah,
cool with that?
yeah,
Cool.
absolutely.
Obviously, you done seen these two highways in your life here. You prefer the Parkway or the Turnpike?
Parkway.
I know you was young. It wasn't all basketball here. House party or block party?
Oh, house party.
Uh oh. Red light with the red light, red light in the basement.
The blue light, bro.
Oh,
Blue. They got to have the blue light. So you had,
oh.
I go back to the posters now. I
Ooh.
don't nobody know you got the posters with the
Mhm,
different colors, with the sisters with the fros, man.
mhm.
The big bros. Hey, man.
All right. Yeah. Bragmans or Coopers?
Coopers.
Uh, Not coaching, not doing anything sports related. What do you like to do?
Say that again.
Not
Not
basketball related, not sports related. What is it that you like to do? What is it, something else, an interest of yours?
shooting.
You said shooting?
Shooting
Okay. You go to the range?
at times.
Okay. No. Definitely a good place to let off some steam and just kind of get in a own different zone here. Absolutely. You have a favorite arm?
Oh, handgun CZ 75. You know, that's a 40.
Mm-hmm.
And then the long you know, I just do it, like I said, for the sport. So that I'm really 1911s, 45s,
Okay.
like that. But that's, that's just that.
Mhm.
Uh, Long guns, not so much, except, the Mossberg pump 450 is always, nice.
Mhm. Nah, definitely here. When you was coaching, did you have a favorite play that you love to call?
A favorite play?
Yes.
Well, the most famous play in our program is either Ohio right or Ohio left.
Okay.
And anybody that you may have interviewed, or if you ask them if if they call Ohio right or Ohio left, what that was isolation.
Okay.
So we put a man on the island and run everybody out 1-4 high off to the other side, and the man with the ball, he was supposed to bring the sauce on that play.
Oh, yeah.
So everybody, you know, think about the guys over the years that I've had.
As you were
So
saying that, I was trying to
yeah,
run through them. Yeah.
isolate them depending on who, and sometimes you get that player that's talking to your bench or talking to you, and
Mhm.
and all that. You look and you're like, what? Hold
Mhm.
up, Ohio right.
Yeah. Mhm.
That would be our our go-to play.
Who did you love to see run that the most?
Anybody I called it for.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, I can't. There's you know anybody I called for. Look, let's look. That play was called for Lance Jackson,
Mm,
Dennis Leonard,
mm,
Mark Brown,
mm.
Earl Flanagan, oh, Eric Murdoch.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? Oh, God bless the dead, Mubby Swain,
Yeah.
Bub, Bub, Bubba, Bubba
Mhm.
Green, Isaac Green. God bless the dead, Omar Howard. These, if you played in the program, that play got run for you. So you see the lineup of guys that I
Yes.
just named,
Yes.
and there's hundreds more that
That's
had
right.
the play called from it. I'll get calls now. You didn't say my name, but
Ah,
there's, that play, that play brought the pain to the
mm,
opponent,
yeah.
so.
Now let me ask these AAU trials, more or less the junior senior teams. I'll just talk about those in particularly. How hard was it to make cuts?
Well, in the early days when I was, like I said, third chair, fourth
Mhm.
chair, you know, I I was more observed,
Mhm.
but that's maybe just that first year,
Okay.
and all. By the second year, I convinced Mr. Wimberly to, let's keep multiple teams. Let's have an A team and a B team,
Okay.
so that there was so many guys who were trying out, and there was so much talent in the gym
Mhm.
that we were literally letting A-level talent walk out the gym, because we had a team that was all Americans, the regional all Americans,
Mhm.
already. And so once he did that, 18 went to, we were the first team to have multiple teams.
Okay.
18 went to a B team, B team went to a C team. So we were almost keeping that at one point in time of 45 kids in each class now, instead of just having one team of 15 in each class.
Mhm.
And what that did is that worked out, because one of the things that I was an advocate of was the player playing multiple sports.
Okay.
We had our guys that were top-notch basketball players, and they were going to be basketball players, but we also had a group of guys that were athletes,
Mhm.
and some of them had another sport, and sometimes that sport was primary but they were just very, very good
Yes.
at basketball. You know, example of that was Jesse Holly, from Roselle.
Mhm.
Jesse was all-state basketball, all-state football,
Mhm.
but Jesse went to North Carolina for football as a primary, but he was fortunate enough that Matt Doherty allowed him to, they were going to give him the split scholarship,
Okay.
play football first, but you also on the basketball team. And when Matt Doherty came, he honored that. So Jesse's one of the few people that has a pro football background, but has a national championship basketball rank,
Okay. Yeah.
Like that. And so Alcides Catano from Elizabeth,
Well,
he was
Elizabeth
like
with
that.
Rutgers, yeah.
He wanted Rutgers, played with the Jets.
Hmm.
So, it worked out that we kept those guys, because now when those guys weren't able to fulfill any obligations with us basketball wise, we had a group of guys that already knew the system that were able to just move up into those spots, and it
Hmm.
would give them that opportunity, to shine.
Yeah. Makes sense. Make all the sense in the world. And you mentioned yourself and Mr. Willoughby being forward thinkers. So that's one example of it.
Yeah.
Favorite tournament to play in?
Vegas, big time.
Vegas. Okay.
Big time tournament,
Yeah.
baby. Big time.
Yeah.
From Vegas.
Mm.
That's my favorite to play in. The probably the first big tournament that we played in that I used to enjoy before that was something called the BCI, Basketball Congress International. It was a tournament that was based out of Phoenix,
Okay.
Arizona.
Hmm.
So we were one of the first, first East Coast teams to go, along
Yeah.
with Riverside Church
Hmm.
and Gauchos
Hmm.
out that far west,
Yeah.
But once big time, that was the best tournament of all time.
Yeah. Now, players, what's the furthest you gotten a player from?
The
Like
furthest,
as far as where he might have lived at.
Lithuania.
Ooh.
No, Benedict's. I was
Yeah.
involved with
Right.
them
Right. Right. Right.
for
Right.
for a number of years, and oh man, I wish I could remember his name, but he was a hell of a player.
Okay.
Um, he literally he came to the United States. Walter Kravanik was one of them. But there was another kid that literally came to the United States from Lithuania, and good friend Hank Cadero was the coach at St. Benedict's, and he's like, "Hey, got a kid that just came. Could he play?" And we had a game at IS8.
Okay. Yeah.
So we broke him in real quick, man. Broke him in real quick. We took him straight to Queens. He got off the plane, hit the dorm at Benedict's, and at that time, it wasn't the nice dorm that everybody knows. It was in the old building. He hit that. And we went straight over to IS8, and the
Yeah.
kid could play, put up numbers too.
Mm.
Yeah.
Question, and I probably this is just my ignorance not knowing is did you guys ever consider a girls program?
Actually did at
Okay.
one time. Brad Howard, who's the head coach at Payne Tech,
Hmm.
was a good friend of mine. And before he was coaching on the boys' side, he was coaching on the girls' side
Okay.
at Arts High.
Hmm.
And we went, we're going through, those years. At the time I was sponsored by Adidas.
Hmm.
And I, talked to Brad, and he wanted to start something. So we had a program for a couple of years called the North Finesse.
Okay.
So we had a girls program for a couple of years. A number of young ladies, went through and prospered. We caught resistance, from individuals that were embedded on the girl side, like, what they're trying to do,
Mhm.
But we help some young ladies,
Okay. Now that Norquay, if those walls could talk, what would they say?
Just, man, see some bad boys in here.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
there's a lot of them.
Nah, you ain't lying. No, you ain't lying here. And I know you've thousands of games you done coached or what have you. Best game you ever coached? Was it one you were just on all cylinders and just with everything that might stick out?
Yeah, a game that sticks out is a game that was played. Now there's a number, but this particular game, I had Mike Nardi, Tony Wilson, Jesse Holly, uh, Asad Shakur, Aswan Menity, my son Charles, uh, Doug Rubenstein, Jeff Milton. That was the squad. But we were playing the St. Louis Eagles. And it was a game in one of the gyms in the Nationals, in the AAU Nationals. And it might have been a Sweet 16 game or something. So we were heavy underdogs to them because they were the, St. Louis Eagles at the time. I think they're bred. They might have bred Billy Leak now, but they had a young man that coaches with Miami now, Ahern, was on that team. I can't remember who else, but they jumped on us.
Yeah.
And it was a game where we had to walk them down. And as we start walking them down, we used to run a diamond trap, the 1-2-1-1. And as we walked them down, I remember that how the arena in Florida started filling up. And you could tell that the people were coming from the other gyms, to see that game.
Yeah.
And we walked them down and we walked away from them. And nobody ever, they thought that we wind up playing Chris Paul in Gardner Rose he played for. We wound up playing them in the quarterfinal game, on that one. We lost that one.
Yeah.
But that game stands out. And then, I coached a lot of games.
No, I know that. I know.
But another one that stands out is Central Park in Orange, right across from
the middle school. Yeah.
The middle school. At the time, they used to have Harry James, God bless his dead. They had the high school league,
yes,
and they had the Pro-Am league. And we were in the championship against Orange. I've just got a flash because we played you in the semifinals or the quarterfinals that year.
I went to Immaculate. I didn't play for Orange.
No, I remember that. You played for Immaculate. There was 3 of you that were on the team that were good at that time. I can't remember who.
Okay.
But we played you in the quarters or something that year. But the championship game, we wind up playing Orange.
Okay.
With Duval, Skip, and all them.
Those guys, yeah.
I had Rashawn Palmer, Lateef McMorrin, had the little white boy from up the way, Greg Bartoli. We had a crew. Had a crew. And that game, it was just a surrealness. You remember how the park was.
Yes.
And, we started the high school game. It's just the high school game. It's the championship game, but it's just a game. But by the time the nightfall hit and the lights were gone, and now all the people were coming for the adult game, it was just an unreal, situation.
Yes.
And Rashawn Palmer had, we called Ohio Right.
He put on the show, yeah.
He put a reverse dunk on people still talk about to this day.
Yeah.
You know, and I'll never say who did it on. You know, because
Well, process elimination.
he got somebody. He
Yeah.
got a bird that day.
Yeah.
You know, but those two games stand out to me. But I've had so many with with guys. You know,
I'm sure. Is there one? I mean, just being a coach and a competitor here, is there one that sticks out that you like to have back?
oh yeah, that's easiest game. 1987 AAU National Championship game. God bless the dead to George Glimp. George Glimp was a coach from South Carolina, Eau Claire High School. He was the gentleman who was Jermaine O'Neal's mentor.
Wow. Yeah.
And Coach Glimp, we're playing, we're in the national championship game against Coach Glimp, and we have a lead. And I should have called the timeout. When they made a run, I should have called the timeout. And I held the timeout. I held the timeout, and I didn't lose the lead right then. But because I held that timeout, I always to this day feel that was the push in the game.
Okay.
That gave them the opportunity to overtake us. And we lost the game by 3.
Tough.
You know?
Yeah.
But that would be the one.
Yeah.
You know, what it was for the national title.
Speaking of chips and everything else here, you probably don't have an answer, but I'm gonna ask anyway. Best team you ever coached?
Could never answer that.
Yeah, I figured that.
Because I got too many guys that put in too many hours with me, you know, and they were all the best. You know, they were all the best that they could be. You know, I don't feel that I ever had a team that didn't give me their best. So therefore, they're my best.
I'm gonna actually put a team together. Some Gauchos come up to North Y to play. They're all-time greats. What's your all-time B Crawford team here that you put against them? You're starting 5.
I can't do it.
You're not gonna do it? That's fair enough. You have so many that walk through that gym.
It's for real. It's like, you know, who they got, we'll match this one against that one. But it's like this. Whoever anybody brought into a gym, we'd have somebody that could play.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Absolutely.
I would never people always ask me who was the best, this, that. I can't pick that with my guys.
Let me ask you this. It is not necessarily pertaining to your guys, but as far as just being on this what you've seen in all these years here, best basketball player, high school basketball player you've seen. They might be from another state or something. Who's somebody would just like probably without a doubt, or is there anybody?
You know, that's hard too.
Okay.
Because I had so many years at ABCD, you know, the All-American camp. So, you know, I got to see Kobe when he was in high school. I got to see LeBron when he was on his way up. Lamar Odom, you know, Jermaine O'Neal, Lester Earl, Chauncey Billups, you know.
That's him all,
Yeah. So, you know, everybody has their own. Probably one that I liked. I always liked Stephon Marbury.
Yeah.
He was in high school. You know, his style of game, you know, he had a surge game, you know. He'd make a move, but he'd surge on you. But that's all that's, you know, Steph is Chauncey, all those guys are all together.
Yes. Yes.
You know, I was there when LeBron went against Lenny Cook.
Yeah.
You know, that game.
Yeah. I know
my daughter called.
You mentioned this guy earlier, and I just remember just, you know, I being up at the Y and just seeing him. I just like, wow, he's going to be something here. Chris Jordan.
Yes.
Yeah, and a few people have mentioned him that when I asked the question about who should have made it, but like I said, I got to see him for I was just like, I know he went to St. Anthony's that one year. Whatever happened, he was no longer there. Was it Ferris or it was one of? It
He
was
wasn't going to Ferris once he went. That was the
or
school.
Schneider. It was one of the schools he went once he left. Right.
Ferris. If you left St. Anthony's, you go to Ferris.
Okay.
Chris Jordan.
Yeah.
Unbelievable talent.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Unbelievable talent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now I know the coaching and you've been a father figure to a whole lot of people here, but your actual kids here. What's been the best part about being a father?
Just the best part is being able to watch them grow.
Okay.
You know,
Yeah.
best part to me is just being able to watch them grow, attempting to be there when they need your support, knowing when you could give them your support or when you have to let them work it through, but I have three.
Yes.
My oldest is Maurice, my second is Charles, who's the coach at Weequahic, and my daughter is the youngest, Latoya. And from them, Mo has 4 children.
Yeah.
Oh, Charles just had his first newborn, and all, and Toya's a senior in college, second semester, so, it's been a joy,
Yes.
No, every family has trials and tribulations, but, look at the joy first.
No, definitely here. Best part about being Brian Crawford.
Just, I've been able to do a lot of things, still trying to do a lot of things. Longevity has its rewards in the sense that now, like I said, I'm beginning to do different ventures with family members and former players, like Wally Main Event Dixon is my relative. That's my cousin, and we're putting together an entity called Blacktop Streetball Association.
Good stuff.
It's going to be a summer, Blacktop League, and right now we've been doing some festivals, and they have some, projects that are being planned. So just being able to stay active in the game and have, new ventures and things of that nature, and then still, trying to get to the green room, so that's always trying to see if you can get that player.
That's right.
That the league wants, and all. So it keeps me busy.
Speaking in the green room, you know how many first round draft picks came through your door? If you was to guess.
I don't think we had a few.
Yeah.
You got, let's see, the biggest thing is that they became first round draft picks. I had a little to do with their development during the passageway.
Yeah.
But I always want to put that the players became first round draft picks. But ultimately, Dave Rivers became a first round draft pick. Mark Bryant became a first round draft pick. Anthony Avon, though he spent most of his time with Sandman, he started out at the North Y.
Right.
He became a first round draft pick. Eric Murdoch became a first round draft pick. Eric Williams became a first round draft pick. Again, he didn't play with me a lot, but helped in his recruitment,
Yes.
There's a few more that I,
Yeah, a few more.
I
Yeah,
can think about.
Brev too, right?
Brad became a first round draft pick. Absolute.
Mhm.
There's probably a few more guys been like, man, you forgot me,
Yeah.
But even better than that, first round draft pick. There's been so many of them that have gone on and had professional careers
Yes.
that
Yes.
they carved out,
That's right.
their place in the game and all. So
Hmm.
yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Uh, don't know if you considered it throughout the years or in the process of doing it, but a book on your life. What would you call it?
I don't know. Um, the easiest title is to steal one from Dick Vitale, and it was a boy, a ball of dream.
Mm.
You know,
Hmm.
so
Hmm.
that kind of fits. What the journey has taken me on. So
Hmm.
that would be. I'd probably have to call Dick up for permission.
Yeah.
But that might be it.
Now, advice to a young male or female here that wants to pursue a life in basketball. What advice would you give him or her?
Oh, know that it's really what you want to do.
Mm.
You know, be committed to it. Um, practice every day. Practice your craft in some form or fashion. Practice it every day, and never be too big to learn.
Mm. Yeah. And you mentioned your mom and your mom raised you as a single parent or what have you. What would your mom say about you now?
Oh, I don't know. You know, she probably just say, keep doing it. My mom was my biggest supporter.
Hmm.
She was my biggest supporter. She allowed me to live in essence a nonconformist lifestyle. You
Hmm.
know that if I wanted to be involved in the corporate world, go ahead. If you don't want to be involved in the corporate world, you know, go ahead. Just be positive.
Hmm.
Bring honor to the name. No
Yeah.
pressure in doing it, but you knew from her excellence. My mother was a registered nurse.
Yes.
From her excellence, that's what she expected. So I never wanted to disappoint my mother. So
Mm. No, absolutely. I couldn't agree more. Couldn't agree more with that.
yeah,
Now I know. I always say I'm okay with moms being mad or what, but being disappointed. Oh no.
yeah, that's different, man.
Oh yeah, yeah. Oh no. Oh
Be mad, be mad,
yeah, yeah. Be mad. No
be
doubt.
mad,
No
be
doubt
mad,
here.
be mad.
Yeah. You used an analogy a little earlier here, and I'm gonna mess it up a little bit, but it kind of it sums up not only with me, but the people you have touched here. We talked about the whole spider in the web analogy that you used a little earlier here. You definitely was one of the webs, no pun intended, with the last name of mine. But I think as far as in my life here, I never actually got to play with you. I stayed obviously when I was younger here and went on to just worry about football, whatever the case may be. But I say this though, just always is knowing Coach B. Crawford as far as who you are and everybody that made their way up them steps and everything else that you, Mr. Wembley, et cetera, have instilled in all of us here. Like it's countless people here, on behalf of them. And I don't want to speak for them, but I will in this regards here. Thank you for all that you've done, you continue to do. And I'm sure you'll get a little humble and taken back by all of this, but we mean it so much here, Coach B. Just thank you, for everything that you've done for all of us here and continue to do here and be a voice of reasoning or just having a conversation here. When we talk, it's just we're just talking. You were just talking. So again,
Yeah.
thank you for everything from the bottom of my heart, everything that you've done and continue to do here.
Well, thank you. Like I said, I'm appreciative of all the young men that allowed me to coach him. You know,
Mm.
and like I said, the web is not complete but the spider's completing the web, you
Yes.
know.
Mhm.
And, I would advise everybody, take a look at a spider's web and see how intricate the details of it are. And that's how intricate life is. And they're always striving to improve their web. So we must always strive to improve our life.
Mhm.
And that's what I've tried to do each and every day.
Nah, thank you. And one more tiny when
Anything.
when
I'm
it's
here.
no. Everybody's gonna want it. So you got to get some camera folks, get somebody here, get you this North Rams documentary off the ground. You got to do something here because you got everybody probably wanting it, and you got everybody that probably want to have a say or two. I'm sure the wheels have been spinning throughout the years. You got to get a visual here. You got to, Coach B, you got to get one.
Yeah, try to. If I'm granted a little more time,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
something possible.
Absolutely, absolutely. And Coach B, thank you. Thanks a million here. And I gotta get my parents, everybody's still down the way here. So I get my
Okay.
butt down here and schedule something in advance, catch you before you in Vegas or LA or somewhere here, and
No
grab a
problem.
bite to eat and just and shoot the breeze here and just continue to soak up stuff from you here. So thanks, Coach B.
We could do it again.
Absolutely, absolutely. We'll talk soon.
Definitely.
Definitely. Be well, Coach B.
Thank you.
All right, you're welcome.
All right.
All right. Things legends are made of here. Coach B Crawford. Like I said, I don't want to speak for everybody, but everybody probably agree with me here. Like, blazed a hell of a trail for a lot of us, in regards to whether it's hoops life in general here and continue to do so here. Coach B, thanks a million for doing this here. With that being said, I'm just gonna step away. I put my hand over my heart. That means I feel you. Yeah.